Next item on our agenda is the public forum concerning the fire station and the community center. And for that, I will turn it over to the chair of the committee, Selectman Salvi.
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening. I'm the chair of a 7-member building committee that was appointed last year to oversee the design and hopefully construction of this project. There's 3 selectmen on the committee, me, Charlie, and Tom, representative from the FinCom, Rich Eckel, representative from Capital Planning, Dave Arsenault, the fire chief, Joe Landry, and Steve Dungan, who serves on the boards of the Council on Aging and the Food Pantry. I think that's everyone. And we have 3 associate members, Bruce Fletcher, Paul McLaughlin, and Jim Sauda. Tonight, I want to start off the public forum. I'll give you a little bit of background for those of you who have not been following what's been going on this project that closely. I'll remind you of where we were and tell you where we are. Then we'll get a brief PowerPoint presentation from the architect, Keifi Kang, a couple of brief statements from the town departments most directly affected, and then I'm hoping that the bulk of this forum is comments from you to us and not the other way around. So those of you who followed developments in town government may remember this all started in 2011 with the idea of 3 building projects. A renovated fire station, a council on aging / community center, and renovations to the library. The library project failed at the polls in 2012. So 2 projects went to town meeting, a special town meeting in late 2012. They were the fire station and the council on aging community center. As you know, the fire station has been where it is since 1965. And by now, probably the needs there are fairly obvious to everyone. Equipment has grown a lot larger since 1965, and the facilities there are inadequate for the staff we have, particularly now that we have men and women working in the fire station. Equipment can't be stored safely, and I'll let the fire chief describe all that in more detail later. Council on Aging is our most important social service agency in town. It serves a lot of people directly every single day. And the facility that the town provides them right now is 1 room, albeit a fairly large room, in the basement of the town building. For all their other functions, like those involving food, they have to, frankly, beg, borrow, and steal space around town from churches and other organizations that can donate it. And there's a need there for more space. They can't conduct activities and have private meetings, and they have private meetings. They have attorneys and accountants meet with people and advise them, and it's hard to do that when there's an exercise class going on in the same space. So these 2 projects came to town meeting in 2012, and they both failed at town meeting. At that time, what was on the drawing board was a proposed fire station, a renovation of the current Crescent Street station, of 17,500 square feet for an estimated cost of $9.6 million. That was the revised cost that we had in 2013. And what was on the drawing board was a minimal community center at the Pompositticut school. And when I say minimal, what I mean is bringing the building up to code and not really doing anything else. Nothing outside, nothing inside, just having pretty much a vacant building that people can go into legally. And that was $2.5 million. So combine the cost of those 2 projects and you're $12.1 million. Those 2 projects failed at town meeting in late 2012, and the message that we all got from the residents was A, make it cheaper, and B, coordinate. So in 2013, and then working into 2014, one committee, an oversight committee, was formed that looked at all 3 projects, but primarily the fire station and the community center. And at first, we were still looking at them as separate projects because we had initially looked at Pompo and couldn't see a reasonably priced way to do it, assuming that we had to have the fire trucks coming out the front, like in any traditional fire station. Then someone had the brilliant idea of having the fire trucks come out the back. The reason they couldn't come out the front was the roof in those two wings is very low. You'd have to raise the roof to allow fire trucks to go in there, and raising the roof is prohibitively expensive. But if you put the fire trucks in the back, the roof there is about, I think, 20 feet high. Even if you built up the concrete slab, which you'd have to do, you'd still have enough room. That brought the cost within reason, if the fire trucks can make the turn, and lo and behold, they can. That was the genesis of the current project. So a concept plan was drawn up by the same architect, Keifi Kang, and presented to town meeting in May of 2014. And then the request was for design funds, $681,000 in design funds. And the point of the design phase is to really look at the project in detail, develop documents that are so detailed that construction workers can just take those documents and start building. And that was approved in May of 2014. At the time, in May, we estimated the total project cost to be $9.4 million. Now we're bringing forward to you the product of that design phase. The estimated cost now is about $9.85 million. It's gone up a little bit less than 5%. And I can go into some detail about why. But what you're looking at, and Keifi will go into more detail about this, is a greatly reduced fire station, 13,500 square feet. You're looking at additional space, far more space than they have now, for the Council on Aging, and office space for their staff, office space for the Recreation Department, the social worker, the nurse, the part-time nurse, and the veterans agent. You're looking at space for a nonprofit, presumably the food pantry, with a separate entrance in the back. You're looking at a community function room that will also double as an activity space for the COA and the Recreation Department. And the community space, we estimate, has a capacity of between 300 and 400 people standing, obviously smaller if you have them sit down or put tables in there. It is even conceivable that someday we have municipal meetings like this. Obviously, this meeting could fit in that space, or even weddings. Who wants to get married at Pompo? I'm not sure, but one day it might be possible. As I said, the cost went from 9.4 to 9.8. A lot of individual costs in the estimates from last spring to now. Some went up, some went down. If I had to specify some of the things that are responsible for the increase, one of the biggest items was we discovered that the septic system had failed and had to be replaced and had to be enlarged. So the plan now is to replace the septic system and put it under the parking lot. That accounted for between $150,000 and $160,000 of the increased cost. The original plan had also assumed we were just going to lay down a new coat of asphalt in the parking lot. Obviously, that went out the window when we had to relocate the septic system, but we also realized that we needed a more complicated and more thorough site design plan to get permits. We needed to plan for all the parking, for snow removal, for everything like that. So some increased cost there. Some increased cost for the HVAC system. A decision was made to insulate the roof, a good long-term decision, but that means you have to put vents through the roof. And some electrical costs were increased because the facility is anticipated to be used as an emergency shelter. Some costs went down, and we also made decisions that did decrease the cost. We rejected the idea of a fire training tower, and we decided to use the the existing drainage pipes rather than have them all replaced. But probably the biggest thing that saved us some considerable money was that the design fee came in a lot lower than we had anticipated. Although $680,000 was appropriated, the bid came in at only a little bit over $500,000. And I think, so for that, for the just about $10 million, we are getting a facility that provides all the needs that we had in the 17,500 square foot facility. All the equipment fits inside, all the fire station equipment fits inside. And we're meeting several municipal needs. I'm sure you can see that the community center we have planned here is not the minimal community center that was presented a few years ago. We've done everything we can to make this project as tight as possible and to keep the costs down and near where they were when they were estimated. We have worked very hard to want to say to town meeting that we have done what they told us to do, and we're just bringing it back to them. And I think that we are at that point. So without any more, I'm going to turn it over to Kaffi for some more description of what got designed.
So if I get my screen back. Hang on. Here we go. Can I take this off?
Yes.
How do I do that? There we go. Okay. Nice to be here. I'm Kaffi Kang Associates. And Jim actually did a really quite thorough job, so I'm going to be able to go through these slides really quickly. As he said, the vision for the Pompo School is a fire station and a community center, which meets the needs of several community groups. The fire department, obviously, the COA, Council on Aging, the rec department, the food pantry, and potentially other community groups that want to use it. So I wanted to just quickly summarize the process we went through. It was a very thoughtful process, a long process with a lot of input. You know, our job as the design team is really to translate everybody else's needs and desires into a final plan. And we had a lot of input from very dedicated, responsible citizens as well as professionals. So to start off with the building committee, which included, as Jim said, 3 selectmen, finance committee representation, and fire chief, and the building commissioner. And I know I left some people out, but then we had a lot of user input. Am I in the way? Sorry. A lot of user input. We had input from the COA director as well as board members, the recreation director as well as board members, the fire chief, and then the town administrator also chimed in with some of the municipal needs. And then we also had other input, because this is not just a building for those entities, but other people will be involved, like the highway department has to take care of the site. So we got their input too on site design. We got their police chief to chime in on security, to comment on that. Stow TV was brought in also to talk about, you know, audiovisual speaker systems, things like that. What might be good there, might, you know, be affordable, what might not be. We also had food pantry, of course. We talked to them at length about their needs and their current space as well as what they'd like. And then information technology people from Stow, both the in-house people as well as consultants that Stow use. And then we also did a lot of testing and exploration. It's an old building, so the best thing to do is to make sure that the infrastructure is good and what needs to be upgraded. So we had the septic system tested, and unfortunately it failed. We had soils testing done to make sure with the new septic system that the soils are really good, and they are. We had hazardous materials tested, and there is asbestos. And then we had the slab, the under slab soil, because the apparatus bays, we have to put in a new slab, a thicker slab. So we had it cored to make sure that the soil underneath is nicely compacted so we can put in a new slab. We had the under slab waste piping, that's the sanitary piping, the waste pipe that goes under the slab. We had that tested with cameras, and we even had it cut open to make sure that the cast iron pipes are in good shape, and they are. They need a little cleaning, but we can reuse them. So those are all good things. And then we went through a whole series of permitting. We got variances from the ZBA for dimensional requirements in the parking area. We got the Conservation Commission approval for the wetlands protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. We got the Planning Board special permit approval or site plan approval. We're still not complete with the special permit. We got the Board of Health to approve the design of the septic system as well as the commercial kitchen. And we've got the DEP approval for the new well, which is another item that we had to add. Oh, going the wrong way. Okay, so as Jim said, we really worked very hard to get this to be a practical, durable, not extravagant building. There's really no frills in this building. It works, and hopefully we are proposing improvements in the infrastructure so that the maintenance will be easy and you won't have to put a lot of money in it going forward. All right, to start off with the site, we are putting in a new well, and it will be in the back portion of the site where the playing fields are. So it'll be in the southwest corner of the playing fields. The new well is going to be located here. The old well was too close to the building and too close to the septic system, so it had to be moved. And the new septic system is going pretty much where the old one is, which is under the parking lot. It is bigger. It has greater capacity than the existing septic system. We will be reusing the tank because the tank was in good shape. And the site plan layout, pretty much the layout of the site works like this. We have two curb cuts, two entries into the site instead of one. Right now you have one right about here. So we'll be moving the fire department entry as far over to the west as we could, and then the other entry as far east as we could to separate the two types of traffic. So the east, maybe I'll do the fire department first. So the fire department, this entry is only for the fire department. That's their emergency access and as well as egress, so nobody goes down this driveway except fire department people. All right, so the fire trucks would come out or go in this way, go into the back. They have a nice area where they have staff parking as well as enough room for the fire trucks to maneuver and turn around. So they're going to be coming out of the back of the building and around this way to get to their emergencies. Now this other entry on the east side is the public entry. So even if you have business at the fire department, you want to get a burn permit or something like that, you have to go through this entry. So this entry brings you to the main parking lot. And at the main parking lot, this is all public parking. There's two entrances. The fire station is on this side, and the community center entrance is on that side. For those of you who are familiar with the building, there's two entrances. We've added not only do we have a lot of parking, but we've also provided a drop-off here, which is especially important for the COA, for people to be able to drop off elderly people or disabled people. We have 6 handicap parking spaces right at the front of the building, and a good amount of parking here. Then we have, going towards the back of the building, a driveway that goes along the east to a smaller rear parking lot. And now this parking lot will serve the food pantry, which would have their own entrance in the back right there, as well as the space that is not currently assigned to anybody. There's about at least a quarter of the building that's not assigned to anybody. It could be future tenant space, or it could be future municipal uses, whatever you folks decide. So that there's a small parking lot back here that would have direct access to the future potential tenant space. Okay, so the building floor plan lays out pretty much like this. The blue is the fire station area. The green is the community center. The orange is the function room. And the purple is the food pantry. And then this brown area in the back is the potential tenant, or whatever unassigned space we call it, in the back. So the function room is in a different color because it can be really shared by everybody, you know, community groups as well as COA as well as the rec department. So we're going to look at each of these two halves, the fire station and the community center, separately in more close detail. So you'll recall the fire station is in this corner of the building. So the main entrance, the visitor's entrance, that didn't get changed, okay, there's two entrances. Here's the main entrance. So if you go in the main entrance, there will be a little waiting area, and then the green is the administrative areas. So the public would stay here unless they have an appointment. They're brought back to the offices. Then there's a second visitor's entrance, which is associated with a training room in this corner of the building. So this training room would be for the fire department to use. I think the chief also talked about, you know, informational training for the public, you know, so that they could, and it could even be used after hours. So this is a separately secured entrance. So if there's a training, you would park here and come in this way. The blue areas is staff only. So that the firefighters would come in this way. They'd park back here and enter these doors, to get their gear on and right into the apparatus and get on their trucks and go. This back area includes some bunk rooms, locker rooms, a day room, and a fitness room, a small fitness room. So, and this is the watch room. So that's pretty much the fire station and how that works. And you'll see that the staff area is separated. You know, the functional part of the fire station is separated, very clearly secured and separated from the administrative area as well as the public area. So these are very distinct areas. So the fire department can control who comes in, who comes out. The community center, we've got the main entrance here, and again, the public areas are in this brown type color. So so if you walk in, there's a reception area, there's a gift shop, and then there's a little drop-in center here for people just to sit and have coffee, watch the TV. And then there's potentially 1, 2, 3, 4 activity rooms that can be used for various different types of activity, arts and crafts, exercise classes, you know, all kinds of things like that. And then the blue represents offices, administrative offices. This larger grouping is for the COA, and this small, this office here is for the rec department. And then we have these 2 little offices for the nurse, part-time nurse, or anybody who's coming to do, you know, like a CPA doing taxes, or a lawyer who wants to, as Jim mentioned, meet privately if you have an appointment. That's what these 2 rooms are for. And then we've got the function room in green back here. So if you come in the main entrance, you could turn right and go into the function room. So the function room is multifunction. There'll be a full kitchen, a commercial kitchen, as well as bathrooms back here, handicap accessible bathrooms. So this could be used after hours easily, as well as, it could be used for COA functions and rec department functions. The food pantry in purple back here has its own back entrance right here, and then enough room for all their shelving and distribution, refrigerators and all that. And they do have a door into the community room so that they can, community center, so that they can use the bathrooms here. Okay, that's pretty much that. Are there any questions on the layouts? No? Okay. All right, in addition to the new layout, as you've seen it, I wanted the cost of this project also includes a lot of infrastructure improvements. It's an old building. It needs to be upgraded in many ways. With the exterior envelope, we are adding insulation, actually under the roof instead of on top of the roof. We would normally do it on top, but because there's asbestos up there, we're trying to avoid touching the roof on top and insulating underneath. We're doing some masonry repairs. As you can see, some of the brickwork is just in very poor shape. And new windows. Existing windows are steel, single pane, very energy inefficient. So we're putting in new windows. The structure we're bringing up to code as far as seismic bracing and snow load. And then building systems, there's going to be an entirely new sprinkler system throughout the building. There'll be new plumbing systems. We have to replace the plumbing fixtures, obviously. And some high efficiency HVAC systems, meaning heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. There's no air conditioning currently in the building, so there'll be air conditioning, and then some high efficiency boilers, as well as rooftop units. New electrical service and systems, because we have to upgrade. LED lighting, which is the most efficient you can get, and a full capacity generator. So as Jim mentioned, it will be usable as a temporary shelter. That includes the full capacity generator, a commercial kitchen. So in case of an emergency and everybody's there, you can still cook meals. There's a handicap shower for that purpose, as well as air conditioning will be in the function room, will be on the generator, so that it will also serve as a cooling center in the summertime. Okay, so those are some of the infrastructure improvements. And then cost. Jim has already covered a lot of costs, but I just wanted to show you sort of the breakdown at roughly of how this shakes out and explain a little bit what these line items include. So we have an estimated construction cost from the 50%. We had 50% drawings estimated. We have a 95% estimate coming in on Monday. So that will be updated. But at this point, we have the original estimate was approximately $8,850,000. Then we have the design and engineering fees, which includes not all the whole design team. It includes architect, engineers, all the the well designer. It includes the geotech person who looked at the soils for us. It includes the guys who cut open the pipes and looked at those waste pipes. So it includes all those things. Professional services during construction. You're going to need during construction some additional services like materials testing, somebody to test the concrete, somebody to test the steel, the connections in the steel, to test the soils. All these things will have to be done during construction, as well as a commissioning agent. And since we have hazardous materials, we'll need clearance testing once the asbestos is gone. All those things, we budgeted $75,000 for that. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And this primarily includes the fire station radio system, and then new furniture for both the community center and the fire station. The fire department really has no usable furniture at this point. So these numbers are from W.B. Mason. It includes numbers the chief did a lot of homework, got W.B. Mason to come in and talk to him about all different options as far as furniture is concerned. And he can expand on that. Project expenses includes utility back charges, like Hudson Light is going to charge you something for bringing in primary service. Moving costs, printing costs. When you go out to bid, you're going to have to print a lot of sets of drawings for bidders. Hopefully there'll be a lot of bidders. And then I've included a project contingency, which is, these are all budget numbers, just in case something comes up, an extra $50,000, which is not a lot. By the way, the estimated construction cost does include a construction contingency. And those are for things like, because this is an old building, you start taking things apart and you find things that you don't expect, or this is not in as good condition as we thought it was, and we're going to have to change some sections of pipe, or we're going to have to move, this beam or something like that, or add an extra lintel, things like that, which it's a good practice always to carry a construction contingency. So that's included in the $8.85 million. So that brings us to a total project cost of approximately $9.8 million. I think that's it. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Jim.
I was going to ask for some of the departments who are going to be using the building to say something, but if anybody has questions right now for Kathy, we could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to ask for some very brief statements, because this is taking longer than I anticipated. Joe, do you want to say a little bit?
Joe Landry, I'm the fire chief, in case anybody didn't catch that yet. I can make this very brief. I think over the time since I've been here, we've definitely expressed our needs for the existing stations to be replaced, which I think is a very important key to this whole project, that the needs have to be there to move forward. One thing, as we looked in the conversation about starting with a larger station, back in 2011, I think we worked very hard in bringing this into an area that it truly does meet our needs. And one thing, because a lot of times when you see these projects roll from one to the next, and you say, well, why did they need 17,000 and they can do with 13,000? There was a lot of thought put into that process. We truly looked at everything, every space that we're going to use, and I feel that we are meeting our needs now, and truly will meet the needs of the fire department over an extended period of time. Especially the use of this building. We show spaces in there, we show areas that we can expand even in our own spaces. There's enough movement in there, and I think by using the existing building, it gave us that opportunity instead of paying for a lot of infrastructure with an anticipation, where the concrete is there, the foundation's there. So I think that was the most important thing, and it is going to meet our needs, and I hope it works through. Is there any questions, fire department wise? Yeah.
This place is going to be a healthy place for you guys to work.
I think so.
Are you going to have a place to clean off the dangerous chemicals when you come back from?
Yes. There's actually, right in the apparatus bay, there's an emergency deluge shower. There's the gear gets cleaned. There was a lot of this is brought up to the newest standards also, all the way from when we talk about the shelters to where the equipment. The gear now will be stored in an independent room that's off of the floor, but it will be a ventilated room so that it's not gonna, the carcinogens in our gear. It also keeps the washing machines that we wash our gears in that have all the hazardous chemicals and the hazardous carcinogens. That's all in this area where we're not, right now, that's actually about 3 feet from my office door. So we carry it right through our administration space where that's gonna be kept all out in the apparatus bay where it belongs. Anything else? Is that brief enough?
That was very good.
Okay, thank you.
Uncharacteristically brief. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Kristen, did you want to say something?
No, Jim told me I could talk as long as I want. So
I
don't know what that's about.
did make a mistake of saying that.
Do you take that back now? My name's Kristen Donovan. I'm the chair of the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging would like to thank the committee who's worked really hard. They appreciate the work that we do. They understand the work that we do. We are the largest social service in town. And they have worked very hard to meet our needs in this building, and we're very pleased with the outcome. I'd like to just review a couple things that we do. We are the largest social service, so we do fuel assistance for seniors. We have a mini food pantry that happens 3 times a week. Our mission statement is to keep seniors in their houses as long and as safely as possible while providing them resources and social activities. We provide van rides to doctor's appointments. We have wonderful events that we host all the time that usually involve food. I put on pounds since I was the chair of the Council on Aging. I don't know how that happens. They're always giving me cake. We have wonderful classes. We work in collaboration with a lot of the different departments in town. We work with the fire department for educating seniors as far as keeping their houses safe. We work with the fire department for fraud and cyber things that go on that where they prey on seniors. We have a social worker that has just started with us this year that's been helping us with a lot of elder issues that we've had to deal with, housing and other issues, social services. So this building provides us a lot of different ways that we can service our seniors better. We will have rooms that we can meet with them in private. Right now we service 1,600 seniors in a room that's smaller than the room we're in tonight. And many times we'll have talks going on where we have to actually move the receptionist out of the room so that the talk can continue without interruptions with the telephone. So we'll have private meeting spaces for seniors where we can carry out our social services. We'll have larger rooms where we can have educational programs for our seniors, and we'll have the large function room where we can have huge parties. We're very happy to work with the recreation department in scheduling our spaces. We love to do intergenerational projects. That's been one of my things that I've been as chair of the Council on Aging. I love to do intergenerational projects. I think it's important for us to do that as a town. And for anybody who's worried about the collaboration with the Recreation Department, the Council on Aging will be open from 8 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, and from 4 on, it's their turn. It's like a timeshare. So we're really not going to be fighting over space. We're going to be working together, and we're happy to do that with them. So please help support us, service you better, service your neighbors better, and if there are any questions I can answer, I hope that was brief enough for you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Laura, you want to say
Thank
something?
you.
Laura Greeno, our rec director.
In short. Hi, I'm Laura Greeno, Recreation Director. As Jim said, Kristen kind of stole my thunder. A lot of what she said is what we're facing at the rec department. Currently, I don't have a dedicated office space, so it would be really nice to find a home for recreation. We have a shortage of space. This plan will provide us a great deal of space to grow some of our adult education programs, our intergenerational programs, as Kristen said. We currently only have this space, so we have limited space and parking. So this will definitely benefit us in that way. I could go on, but you know, I gotta cut it. Jim's cutting me off. I can hear it in my ear. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Steve, I didn't give you a heads up, but do you want to say anything? Okay.
Characteristic.
Since when?
Steve Duncan with the Stow Food Pantry. You may recall from our last presentations at the last town meeting, we currently have about 1,500 square feet of space, but that space is broken up into 3 different locations. The plan here will provide about 1,000 square feet of space, which is a lot less. However, we're going to gain significantly by the consolidation of all the storage and inventory under one roof. Also, there are no doors or cabinets or walls in the current space provided by the plan here, and that alone will give us more room to maneuver, serve our customers, and keep all the food within reach as we provide to our clients every twice a month. So I'm really excited about this plan. I know the rest of the Food Pantry Board is as well, and I certainly hope we can move forward with it in the next month or 2 with the voting and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And before we get to public comment, Kathy, do you think we could get the slide back that has the site plan, or just in case people want to refer to it? Let's open up for public comment. Just last comment, I hope for those of you who were at the May town meeting, I hope the design looks very familiar, and I hope that number sounds pretty familiar. So let's take your questions and comments. And please go to the microphone if you have comments. Don't be shy.
Hi, I'm Jim Sauter. I guess you all know me. You haven't gone into what it's going to do to the tax rate. I get this question all the time, and I was former chair of the COA, and I've been on this, I'm an associate member on this board. But I keep getting this question. Do we have any estimate what it's going to do to the tax? I think that's a big question that
Sure.
should be answered here tonight.
I probably should have hit that right off. Sure. Let me turn it over to the town administrator.
At the moment, I ran 2 debt schedules with respect to loading up on our townwide debt. This project, as currently estimated by cost, Kathy and I have been talking. Good news to hear that on Monday, hopefully we have the final 95% complete number, and I'm hopeful it's close to this one or maybe even a little less. But I ran it at a debt total of $9.4 million. I'm a bit higher than 9.8, I'm 9.9, primarily because a clerk of the works figure that the preliminary estimate didn't include, and I just rounded, so it would have brought it to 9,875, pushed it to 9.9. 500,000 of the total project cost of 9.9 is coming from free cash. As you recall, I made the commitment last year, and I applied $300,000 of free cash at the annual town meeting. So that 681,000 that was appropriated for design development, and in fact, Kathy's contract runs through construction administration, so all of the engineering and design is already paid for in that total. And Kathy was gracious enough in our negotiations to provide a little extra at the front end here through design development, so we've taken on some additional services that enabled us to more fully complete design with a better understanding, especially when it goes to cost estimating. So $200,000 at this special town meeting, you'll see in the warrant article that comes out, for a total of $500,000. Backing that from 9.9, we'll finance 9.4. I've run 2 debt schedules, one at 20 years and one at 25 years. And what I don't have yet, but I will have sometime tomorrow, or I'll have an opportunity to look at it, is a third debt schedule tax impact chart, which stretches the band, which is the temporary borrowing you can do until you get the full borrowing with full principal and interest. What I'm trying to do is hit the magic target year of 2021, which will be the first year we will have unloaded fully the Hale School loan that we took out to renovate the Hale School in 1995. So if I can flatten that punch here a little bit for the taxpayers, that's what I really want to do. So I'm going to try to squeeze another band year out of it. But right now, at 25 years, 9.4, traditional band payout, the impact on the average valued home this year would be approximately $228 a year. God. Wow. Shoot. Yeah, no, that's
Leave those zeros off the
$228 a year impact on your taxes for the full debt of this project over 25 years. I have run it at 20 years, and as I said, I will stretch it some to see if we can't flatten the curve in hitting 2021, and we can some. I think the importance here is that flexibility is key in managing debt, and we can continue to apply stored assets throughout the total period of time under which we're temporary borrowing, called band notes, bond anticipation notes. So to the degree that we're able to each year, for the length of period of time I'm still here, I'll try to continue to buy down during the band note period if we have stored assets. Right now we have a healthy amount of stored assets. We're in strong fiscal shape, and so we may be able to continue to reduce what will actually be borrowed, but at the current moment, that's what it would be. So you could count on somewhere in the neighborhood of $228 a year.
Based upon average.
You don't plan to retire right away, do you?
I love being in Stow, and I always have. It's my second home.
Thank you. Other questions?
What would be the cost of the average home? Does anybody have that number? Just, you mentioned $228 per year for the average home. Just wondering for those people at home what that average amount would be. Are you looking at a $400,000 house, or?
You want to know what we're using for the assumption of the average
Yes.
home that's
Yes.
being here?
Yes.
Hold on a second.
28,160.
428,160.
Okay, so 400,000. The next question is, in our free cash, how much free cash do we have, and could we use more of that to buy down our, the amount?
We could always use more. We were certified this year for free cash last October by DOR at 1.8 million.
Okay.
We traditionally each year use somewhere between $300,000 to $500,000 to reduce the annual tax burden for our capital projects. Primarily, I try to apply it to rolling stock vehicles, highway, police, or if I've been trying to keep it to 250 standard off-the-shelf capital projects, but each year we have other needs that I apply free cash to as well that come up at special town meetings or after the tax rate is set. So if at this special town meeting we had something that required an appropriation, you couldn't use taxes in any event because the tax rate's been set, so it would be stored assets. We also have a healthy amount of stabilization funds, and we're sitting, so we're over $2 million in stored assets, and we're also sitting at $1 million plus for unused levy capacity. We're in a position that few communities are that way. So continuing to use stored assets, but not using stored assets that reduce. I'm also trying, before I leave, to get us to the gold bond of AAA rating. And we're a bit short on some policy matters, which drafting now, pro forma, that easy done. What I'm trying to get to is the stored asset level percentage against your entire budget expenditures of a certain percentage, and that's what Standard & Poor's loves to see, and we're a bit short there. So, but to be truthful with you, the payoff is that we reduce the burden on the taxpayers each year, and I'm getting close to where the baseline is that we can continue to use those stored assets somewhere within 5 or 10% of what we annually do to hit that percentage they're looking for, and that would be the last piece for this town to reach AAA. With AA plus, we got raised a few years ago, so that would be nice, but I wouldn't do that at the expense of taxpayers having to be burdened more than they are. I think I'd rather have the taxpayers save each year, and that's what we're doing here. And I think also there's, there's a more, I hate to say correlation coefficient, but I would rather use stored assets beyond what we're doing now to buy down debt to actually pay out directly to cost. Then you don't take on the interest at all. And you pay up front for it, and it might be through, immediately after this project's complete, there are things we could still do with this, and if we don't have the contingency available to us through it, though I hope, for an AV upgrade such, pay out directly cash rather than just buy down the impact on debt, right? I mean, it's, but anyway, we're in a good place fiscally and financially, and if we manage it and continue to, then we'll continue to be able to take previously appropriate tax appropriations and turn it in liquid cash. Did that answer the question?
Other questions? Barbara.
Hi, my name is Barbara Seipler. I have a vested interest in this. I'm a neighbor. And having a fire station come into my quiet neighborhood is not my favorite idea. I have to be honest, there are about 5 of us in that area. It's a very quiet area, not used to much traffic at night, mainly during the day for schools. But that aside, my questions are, in the contingency fund, is there a contingency for landscaping?
Landscaping is included. All these trees that you see I'm sorry. All this landscape, all the trees that you see here are actually on the landscaping plan. Yes.
All right. Well, my main question is, going back on the right-hand side, the east side,
Yeah.
going back there, it's a very it's almost single lane. I don't know how it can be a double lane without removing trees that are there already that are not on the school property, they're on neighbors' property. And I don't know what you're going to do about 2-lane traffic going back and forth there. It's just, these are just suggestions to think about.
Actually, we've gone through this. We are not removing any trees or plantings on neighbors' properties.
Oh, right.
That is not allowed.
Okay.
So there is a pinch point right at the corner, at the building's easterly corner there, that gets down quite small, but we are managing, we staked it out, had it surveyed. We can get an 18-foot wide drive as well as a 5-foot sidewalk.
Oh, okay.
And still leave a few, I think it's 5 or 10 feet to the property line. I think it's 10 feet actually to the property line. Don't quote me on that one. But we do have 18-foot wide drive, which is not bad. Some of your rural roads are only, even smaller than that. And we do have a pull-aside. You'll see a little widening there of the drive. That's a pull-aside so that if somebody's coming around the corner, that you can pull over to the side and let that person go. All right, it's without trying to, even though you could pass this way, it adds a bit of safety.
Good.
Okay.
Because we have been on that property many, many times, and we know about the sizing. Also, the parking for the playing field back there. When they have games back there, the whole parking lot in the front is taken. Right. So that's going to be a real concern.
Well, that's why what we did was, so I don't keep crossing, sorry. That's why the system of sidewalks.
Okay.
Okay, because,
Okay.
I mean, there is only limited parking back here. So if there are, people who are using the fields back there and they have to park here, they can walk along the sidewalk all the way to the back.
All right, good. All right, the next, I'm going to keep on, sorry.
Sure.
The next one is the public entry on the east side. It's very easy to miss that entry and then go in the fire department side. And there is no way to get into the out of that parking without going back and turning around. Is there any suggestion, or could there be a suggestion that there's an emergency entrance into the parking lot from the fire department drive? I know you've probably thought about that 100 times, but
I don't think that will work for the fire
I don't
department.
think it'll work either, but that's my concern.
If I could.
Yeah, Jim.
That is a concern. And we're trying to address it through very, very clear signage.
Okay.
We really don't want to have people using or even thinking about using the fire department entrance to access the publicly available stuff.
Right.
You're right. You're also right about that pinch point. That's something we spent a lot of time talking about too. But we're also going to be using the existing light for the school when fire trucks are exiting. We're hoping that through very, very clear signage of both entrances that we can address that.
Okay, very good. All right, well, keep on. Hours. Everybody said after hours. Is there going to be a time that this building can be used to and then cut off, say 10 o'clock at night? Or can things go on late? I mean, that's something this isn't part of the building problem, but it's a neighborhood problem.
So an operational plan hasn't been developed, except issues like this have come up in the course of the planning board hearing. Certainly on a regular basis, other than the fire department side, obviously, which is staffed 24 hours a day. There's not going to be anything going on the community center side. Now, of course, the function room could be used for municipal meetings like this one, and those can go, as you know, 10 or 11 in theory. But other than that, I don't think anyone's anticipating something on that side of the building going later than business hours.
Fine.
Well,
It's just that
food pantry, I suppose, might have delivery. No.
As
Recreation.
I said, recreation.
But that's only until the early evening, really.
And functions, you know?
Well, functions is, yeah, I mean, you know, if indeed people are having weddings, I suppose that is.
Not yet.
Right. But, I mean, that's a possibility.
Okay, there's just one last thing. In the front of the building where the entrances are, I am privy to the knowledge that there is a time capsule buried there. And tonight when you talked about removing the asphalt, my heart just sank, because I think that's where it is. I have no idea, but I know it's somewhere in the front. It's a time capsule that was buried. It's a 100-year time capsule. Can you wait?
News to me.
Yeah, that's brand new news.
I have no idea. It's
Well-
just that whoever's doing the digging, be careful.
No, obviously, we're going to have to take that into account. I have no idea.
No, you had no idea.
Yeah.
You would not.
If it's in this area and this area, we're really doing very
I
minimal.
don't know if it's in the asphalt or it was put in at the construction of the school.
Oh.
And it's minor, but it's a time capsule. And
Yeah.
It's for 100 years, and it's just sort of nice. So if whoever's doing the backhoe, please, just be careful.
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Other questions? Our idea was to try to stay here until all questions are answered.
I had a question about the fire department. Dwight Seipler, 493 Great Road. Now, I understand you said that the building is going to fill the needs of the fire department for several years. But a few years ago, I heard a wish from the fire department that they wanted a ladder truck. Now, my impression of ladder trucks is that they're much larger than ordinary trucks. Is the building big enough for a ladder truck? And is the driveway big enough to turn a ladder truck?
Yes. The ramp area, it depends on the ladder truck, obviously. They can be designed, there's what's called quints, and there's shorter trucks and larger trucks. We've reassessed the needs of the fire department. We're designing this building that it does not have a ladder truck in it, but the bay space, to say that would it fit in there, you could possibly replace a pumper with a ladder truck because they make them with pumps now, which would be, if there was ever a forward thought, possibly. So things of that nature will fit in the apparatus bay. We are making the bay height to today's standards of the 14-foot doors, so we are building the facility to the future. The question if the town will ever need one is, as of right now, no. There's no anticipation in my timeline that I'm told that there's a need for a ladder truck in the town at this point. But I do think when we look at this building compared to the other options that we were laying out there previously, this building offers us a lot more opportunity for any sort of unforeseen changes. You could have an infrastructure change in town that would require the need. And I do feel like this building will meet that. Just for the fact of, even at this point, we have unassigned space. You have movement where you don't have that in any other facility options that were laid out there previously.
My only other comment was, is the $228,000 tax impact sufficient to fund these huge parties that we've been promised?
Maybe. Add $2.
I'm Mark Jones, member of the Planning Board. On the height of buildings in town, there's been a court case in the last couple of years that it's conceivable that a so-called 40B development could occur that would be larger than the accepted by zoning height. So it's conceivable that even though we might not want, and our zoning is against a tall building, a town cannot prevent a tall building from being built through the 40B process, and that's something not always in control even of the Zoning Board of Appeals. If a developer can persuade a subsequent body that it's uneconomic to have a smaller building, then it's out of the control of the town and even the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you, Mark.
Two quick things. The chief could say this, but we have mutual aid and we're surrounded by communities with ladder trucks. So not that I'll be here at the time, but on a cost benefit, purchasing a ladder truck for Stow now or in the foreseeable future, I can't see how it would pay for itself.
Really quick, just a very quick understanding, the height of a building isn't what truly requires the ladder truck. A ladder truck is necessary to get to very high situations. Buildings, if a new building is being built, a lot of these buildings are built with compartmentalization, the ability to get up to these upper floors. The firefighting operations usually are not done with the ladder truck in these situations. A lot of people see a big building and say, we need a ladder truck for it. The other thing with a ladder truck is you need the staff to operate a ladder truck. We are a rural water supply. We have to get our water to a fire from ponds. We have to use pumpers. We have a lot more infrastructure needs on the ground to put water on the fire than our concerns as a ladder truck. So there's a lot of thought put into it, and I understand when we talk about buildings and needs, there's a lot of operational infrastructure that we have to put just to get water to a fire. We need hydrants and everything else to really utilize a ladder truck in that situation. We call the mutual aid ladder truck immediately. It gets that vehicle to the front of the building. If we get it there after we set up our water, a ladder truck is useless to us because it's probably going to be 200-300 feet away from the building, and the ladder's only 100 feet tall anyways. So those are just some insight towards the ladder truck controversy.
Al Wheeler, 19 Forest Road. I'm president of the Stow Friends of the Council on Aging. We're a nonprofit agency that raise funds and spend them for the benefits of the seniors through the COA. These kind of public forums are fine before the town meeting, but what kind of plans do you have in getting this information in front of all of the voters prior to the town meeting? I field a lot of questions from people saying, what's going on with Papa? When do we move in? There's a lack of knowledge, and I think it would be great to get this before the people, before the town meeting. Any plans for that?
We're doing the best we can, and we're going to have to rely on organizations like the Friends and like the departments that are most affected. One of the things that is affecting us here, Al, is the construction season. And we are very much trying to, if the project gets approved, to get construction documents out and bid on before most contractors have already gotten all their projects for the season, in order to maximize competition and get a significant amount of building done this year. So unfortunately, we're on a really tight schedule. But frankly, and I've said this to Kristen and to Allison and Laura and Joe, is that you're right. We need to get people aware of this, let them know what's going on. There's been some terrific publicity in the Independent already. This public forum and the one that's following it up on February 10th are really important, though. And it is important to get the word out about this.
There will be a warrant coming out for this meeting.
Yes.
What about trying to get this information along with the warrant?
Well, there is a warrant out. It's just coming out now. There was a great article in the Independent just yesterday. I'm forgetting what day it is. The information is coming out soon before town meeting. You're right. But it is out at this point. And now, what I really think we need to rely on people like your organization to help distribute that information. We don't have a lot of time, I admit that. There's a reason we're holding a special town meeting in the dead of winter, which is because we got to try to maximize the construction season if it gets approved.
Okay, thank you.
But thanks for the point.
Hi, I'm Marcia Rising, 76 Treaty Elm Lane. I heard about a new sprinkler system, and I am curious to know what the water source is going to be, if it's going to be from the well that you're putting in, or if you're going to have to put a big tank in the ground. Could you talk about that?
Yes, we will have a big tank in the ground.
For how many gallons are you required to hold?
I think it's, I don't know, I'd have to look at my drawings to see how many gallons, but it's enough for 30 minutes.
40 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
That's what's required.
And where will the tank go?
The tank is going at the back of the building, between the fire station parking lot and that back parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Oh, and you're to be commended. It's an excellent, excellent proposal.
Thank you. Bill?
William Byron, 469 Gleasondale Road. I have a question for our designer. After you get through reconstructing or reinforcing this building and doing all the upgrades, regardless of how long the fire department stays there, there may be maybe 10 years, 15, whatever happens, or whether it's used for tennis courts or handball courts, what will the life expectancy be of the structure when you get through upgrading it?
I mean, it's a solid building. You know, there's concrete foundations, it's a steel structure. They're really, the envelope is in good shape except for the few repairs that we're making. The only thing, to be honest, that will need a little bit of attention in maybe 10 years is the roof, because we are not replacing the roof at this point, because it's a huge roof. If we replace the roof, it would be, I think, close to $500,000. So, if not more, because of the asbestos underneath. So that's the only thing that will not last for another, I don't know, 50 years at least. You know?
Okay, that's what I was looking for. If they built a new standalone fire station, I think there's some kind of an outlook of 50 years on any building.
Oh yeah, this would last that long.
So if whatever we might want to use it for, we'd be able to safely.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you.
I should mention, since you mentioned the standalone fire station, when the oversight committee looked at it, we looked at a standalone fire station that was smaller than the one proposed in 2012, so $12,500. The cost of that was about $7.5 million. Then you add that minimal community center to it, the $2.5 million one, that gets you to $10 million. That's about the same cost as this project. This project, and these are the efficiencies of building stuff together, I guess. This project gives you 1,000 extra square feet, 13,500 for the fire station, and it just gives you so much more on the community center, council on aging side. This from shared use between rec department, COA, and frankly, probably the best decision anybody made was not to develop all of Pompo. Pompo's 36,000 square feet, and at a cost of over $200 per square foot for renovation. Probably the best decision that was made was to redevelop in Pompo only what we need for these two uses. Other questions? Paul.
Comments more than a question. You've probably covered most of what I want to say anyway. I look at this project as a taxpayer in town. And my focus over the past couple of years has been primarily on the new fire station. Anybody that visits this old station will absolutely agree with me. It's at the end of its useful life. So I attended numerous fire station building committee meetings over the past couple of years, and I think I may have irritated a few people because I kept trying to drive the cost down. When this proposal came up, and I visited Ware, Mass, which has a brand new fire station. They built it at really low cost, beautiful station. Went to Lunenburg, they had a nice station. This station, on a per square foot basis for the fire department, cannot be built freestanding any place in this town. On a per square foot basis, this beats everything that I used to bring to the fire station building committee and say, hey, why don't we do this? This does it. I'm in favor.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'm sure we've taxed, oh, sorry, Tom.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. I think we've got a good, solid proposal. You heard a minute ago about us reusing the roof. A lot of towns might just replace the roof, but we figure we can get another 10 years out of it, so why replace something now that still has 10 years of life in it? We've tried to do a lot of good things as far as making sure, we're not moving walls around just to move walls around. We're moving them around for specific reasons. We're also, as you heard, reusing the existing piping in the floor, and we had a chance that we weren't going to do that because we knew that some of them were plugged. But what we did, and I'm going to give kudos to the fire chief, because the day after we found out that we had a problem, I think it was the day after, he was down there with some folks from the highway department. They jackhammered a hole in the floor, made access, and found out that the pipes were good, and they just needed to be cleaned out. And that was a $60,000 thing that we did overnight, or almost. But we've got a great staff in the fire chief, our building commissioner, Craig Martin, Allison at the COA, Laura at the rec department, our professional staff, and including Bill Wrigley. They're all working together to try to help keep the costs on this down, and they're putting in a lot of time. So I give all our professional staff kudos. The guys up here, we're part-timers. When the rubber hits the road, our professional staff is really taking on and doing things like jackhammering a floor up because we need the answers right now. So kudos to our staff.
Thanks, Tom. And that looked like that was about it for questions, so thank you for the patience of everyone else on the Selectmen's agenda, and thank you all for coming to the forum. And please, the next forum is February 10th at the selectmen's meeting. Thank you.